Hello. This is it. This is the stream. I'm just going to listen to this music. No, this is the trailer music for Loya. The devs in the chat. Thank you for joining. I know this is a ungodly hour for some people, depending where you are in the world. Sorry for your mosquito troubles. We're checking out Loya and Eko or Eko today. And yeah, these were both kind of pretty polished looking games. It felt fair to put them alongside each other in terms of where they seem like they are in their sort of development journey, I suppose. So we've got Loya, which is looking a bit like a build your own house moving castle. So we've got some base building and some combat involving these bases and giant monsters, which is quite exciting. Wanted to give this one a little bit more of a session, so we're going to be giving each of these games about an hour this week. We've got some giant bosses, yeah. This looks like a game that's going to have a bit more of an economy, so you're going to need a little bit longer to really get a sense of it. As always, I have this stream every Thursday where I playtest games that have been sent, that have been in my backlog. I think one of these has been waiting for about 3 months in my backlog. I'm not sure how long it is. Sometimes a game seems like it needs more time, and I schedule another stream for it another time. But we'll see how far we get with these, with an hour in each. So Loya, which sounds a bit like someone saying lawyer with a particular accent, like I need to get a lawyer. I need to get a lawyer to deal with these land rights management issues that arise from having a walking abode. And then after that, we're going to be checking out... Let me just check which one's downloaded, actually. Sorry. Let me just... Discord, go over there. Get out of my main monitor, Discord. What are you doing? Yeah, Loya is nearly downloaded. So we'll check that out first because the developer is here. And then we'll check out Eko or Eko and the Bewitched Lands, top-down Zelda-like type thing. Very quick note on marketing. It's a randomly generated action-adventure RP with roguelike and puzzle elements. I always think this is the worst way to introduce a game. To go with, like... It's such a dry description of what the game is. And randomly generated makes something... I don't know, random is not the same as procedural, right? Procedural means that you've designed a procedure for levels to be generated. Randomly generated sounds like, well, it sounds randomly generated. And even, I don't know, even the waves in Vampire Survivors are not random. So random can be quite a dodgy word to use in that kind of context. But we're going to be rescuing a princess. We're going to be doing some Zelda stuff. I really like the main character design in this. He looks like he's got some attitude. And if we compare that to... I did a Kickstarter breakdown a few weeks ago on a game called Violets of Amicus. And the character design there just didn't really grab me. And I really think this is a good character design for this kind of Zelda-type game. Because if you think of what makes Link appealing, it's like... You've got a character that is trying to be big and tough, but they look a little bit vulnerable because they look like a kid. And that is sort of perfect for putting you in the headspace of like being a little kid that's trying to go on an adventure, being a Bilbo Baggins or whatever. And I really feel like I've just literally put my head over the character design. There he is. I really feel like this character design is very good for this type of game. It is a character that comes across as sort of plucky and sort of tough, but kind of trying to be tough rather than actually tough. And I think that is a very good character archetype to go with for this type of kind of Zelda-like game. So I'm kind of looking forward to this. It's a genre that I always sort of feel a bit disappointed by whenever I play it in the indie space, because I think there are just some things that people fundamentally don't get when they're building them, and I think it's really a case of we are more critical of the things we love. We are more, well, if you know, often we have more reason to be critical of something if it's trying to do something we like and we feel like it's failed at that. So I'm tentatively excited about this game that we're going to play in about an hour, because it looks very kind of polished. It looks like it's nailing some of the key things that I think people often get wrong in this genre, which is just like, have an appealing, plucky little character. If you're going to make a character-driven action game, that there has to be an immediate sense of like, oh yeah, I want to be that little guy, and I do get that here, which I often don't when people try and make games in this genre. Let's check out Loya first. We're gonna be doing some lovely chill anime music. We're gonna be building a house moving castle. Other moving castle fiction is available, and yeah, let's check it out. Loya, probably Loya, but I'm gonna say Loya. But yeah, I would say if you're making like a character-driven action game, then part of your sort of testing process with people, and I'm guilty of this as well, because I'm making a character-driven action game at the moment. My character is incredibly sort of derpy, but I'm getting a good reaction in terms of people say that they like the character, they find them cute, they find them appealing, and that should be part of the testing, right? If you think of what, in a big studio, what does concept art do? Concept art is a form of prototyping. It might not be playable prototyping, but it's prototyping in the sense that you're making a small part of something to test it. And the test of like something like a character design can just be like showing a character design to people and seeing if they go, hell yeah, or not. Esc feedback to report bug or give feedback. Okay, cool. Let's see how we get on with this. So this is going to be a multiplayer game. And it looks like I can test it on my own, which is good. So we're going to go to Dude's Rockland. Because often I get sent multiplayer games, and I don't know if you've noticed this, I never playtest multiplayer games on the channel, and there are reasons for that, but one of them is just logistics. Doing a multi-game stream already takes quite a lot of work to set up. I'm generally not someone that comes from a background of like MMOs and stuff like that, so anything that has a technical barrier to entry for that side of things is going to slow me down. Okay. I can be a skeleton. Can I only be a skeleton? Oh no, it's a skeleton is one of the options. Cool. This is neat. This is a neat set of characters. I feel like you've got a good range of appeals here. Like the worst thing is when you've got like select or make your character and they're just all the same type of thing, and it feels like you've got a good range here. I quite like Cat Mask Girl. I'm going to be one of them, whatever that is. I'm going to be one of them. Does my hair match my mask? I don't know. We're going to be, is it a fox? Is it a fox mask? Doesn't really matter what colour my eyes are, does it? I'm going to go with orange hair to match the foxy thing. Fandango the Fox. Let's go. Hi folks in the chat. I had just the YouTube street chat on my side. I'm just switching to multi-stream because I know we're getting a few more people on Twitch now. My streaming platform always defaults to just showing me the YouTube chat or just showing me the Twitch chat and never defaulting to the multi-stream, which is really annoying. Lawyer, I'm gonna get my lawyer. You were living a peaceful life in your home world when you ended up here. This portal must be where you came from. You can't remember how you got there. There must be a way to go back. Maybe I don't want to go back. Maybe the whole point of Portal Fantasy is I don't want to live in a world with taxes and, well, taxes are necessary, but I don't want to live in a world with paperwork. That's what I want. Yeah, I want to live in a world with no paperwork, and that is fundamentally what Portal Fantasy is about. So you've set me up with a goal, an overall goal of what my character's trying to do really quickly with like 3 lines of text, which I love to see. I would always rather just have 3 lines of text than an overwrought cutscene. I know some people love an overwrought cutscene, but there's a reason why action-oriented games like Overwatch and stuff like that have optional story rather than story that you have to wade through to get to the game. The World Codex. Okay. We're getting some Monster Hunter ass Codex stuff. We're getting a big old crafting system. It looks like you've got quite a lot of that in here already. I've got an objective to go home. I've got a sort of bestiary with nothing in it yet. Although I can see what they are. Alfred, Jemima, Gordon, and Craig. The whole gang's here. Okay, cool. I like that kind of feature because it helps to inspire confidence in your audience when you've got I'm going to be a warrior. When you've got that kind of menu and you can see that there's stuff there and it's not all just totally obscured. I can see that there's content there and not just like the fake promise of content. And I think, you know, most gamers over a certain age have been let down a lot of times by games promising a lot and then not delivering on it. So you have to be careful with what you promise. But I think having that kind of menu where you can see that there's stuff to fill out, you can see that the developer has decided how many things there are in the games. All of that kind of stuff helps to inspire confidence, I think. Oh, look. Is this Breath of the Wild? Teleporter. Is that a teleporter or is it a map? Cool. Really good design of that object. I knew what it was just intuitively. Yeah. That might not be the same for everyone that playtests this game. It might just be that I'm really good at identifying teleporters. It's like the one thing I'm good at. It really wants me to look up my world codex. We've got a mushroom forest. The 4 statues. You found 4 statues. They look similar to all the ones in the portal you came from. There must be something to discover here. Talk to one of the 4 statues. I don't know. I don't want to talk to a statue. Hello, mate. Are you a One Piece? Am I supposed to fight you, or are you a friend? Are you a foe or a bro? So I've got a dodge roll on shift. This feels pretty good. I mean, just the basic roll around clicking attacker thing stuff feels good. Do I have a lock on? I really would like to have a lock on so that I can sort of circle strafe and keep... Small snail. So I've also got my moves down the bottom. I've got a whirlwind that I can do with Q. I don't know what E does. E does that. Don't know what that is. Z does a dash slash. It's a small snail, yeah. That's a normal snail size where I'm from. I don't know about you. Who's this? Some of these enemies are... I don't know if they even are enemies or from just murdering random neutral mobs. But that's too cute. Like, do I wanna bonk him on the noggin? I'm gonna bonk him on the noggin. So this is a server-based game. I don't know how many players you're going to have in a server. But it's feeling pretty good from just like a basic game feel point of view of like how it feels to move the character around and get them attacking and stuff. All feels pretty good. It's on a par with like how it feels to do melee in... I don't know if you've played... This is going to be an odd reference, maybe for an indie games channel, but... I don't know if you've played the Lego mode in Fortnite that's been around for the last year or so. It's pretty neat, actually. They sort of... I think you might initially think that's just going to be Fortnite with Lego skins, but it is a totally different game mode with like a persistent server that you go in and build things. You build little towns and stuff. And I would say the combat here feels on a par with that. Which, I mean, that's a good bar to be on. The thing is, in games when you're sort of... In games where you're killing stuff to farm, you don't necessarily want loads and loads and loads and loads of juice on like every little hit you do. As well, because I could see a world where there's a lot more screen shake and kind of crunchy impacts and stuff. But if we're having to kill dozens and dozens of enemies to farm, you maybe want the combat to feel a bit lighter and more casual. So I think the way that works currently is pretty decent. I've got a prompt to show the crafting window tab. I can build stuff here. Can't build any of it yet because I need wood and stuff. I mean, yeah, we're gonna maybe have some difficult combat later. I'm quite happy to be onboarded into a game without being killed for like the first 10-20 minutes. Only the strongest may challenge the Titans. Bring me a heavy amulet from a heavy golem and prove your worth. Okay, maybe I will. There he is. I see a giant on the horizon. The statue was talking about defeating a golem. There is no way you could kill this thing by yourself. There are materials around. If you could build a large enough weapon, you might have a chance. That is a big boy. Look at him. He's got like a... He's got guns sticking out of him. Men will literally become giant made out of stone and affix firearms to their stomach before going to therapy. Press H to show the world codex. Right, I'm crafting something. Am I crafting a weapon for myself, or am I crafting my base, or do we not get to do that yet? Collect wood by attacking trees. Must I? That tree has so much health. Ah, okay, that's why. We're doing this. We're doing... You get little bits of wood out of the tree, and you don't destroy the tree for a very, very long time. And I think that's a nice compromise, because it means you can get rid of a tree if you want to, but... Like, I always feel bad cutting down trees when I want there to be a forest. I mean, that's the nature of nature, I guess, but, Sorry, we're getting overly profound today. That's the nature of nature. That's the dumbest thing I've ever said. But yeah, I guess that is just kind of what realistic resource harvesting is like. But I want the world to still have trees in it and look pretty. And I play games to escape from the consequences of my actions. Right, we need to build a crafting table. I don't know how much woods I need for that. I'm just going to get more than I need, because I'm probably going to need some more woods in a minute anyway. So, rather than visiting the menu 5 times, let's just get as much stuff as we can. Right, Piggy is being annoying, so run away from Piggy. I wouldn't mind to sort of zoom in and out on the mouse wheel on this. I feel very, very close. Although I'm not struggling to kind of see anything or having any difficulty with, like, being able to fit enough into the camera or anything like that, so. Open the bag. Close my bag. You can click on items to know more about them. Okay, so we jump from one point of the codex to another by clicking onto the ingredients. Can I make that? I need a crafting table. Build it with tab. Okay, this is not too difficult to learn. I mean, any game with a lot of kind of crafting systems and stuff is going to be fiddly to a degree. I think this is pretty decent. You've got the kind of reminders down in the bottom right as well for where the keys are for these things. I'm going to live in this forest. This is my home forest. I'm going to make a wooden plank. Zowie mama. So if I've got some wood and some stone, I can make a better choppy axe. I don't know if we're really going to get to the point where I get to build a big stompy thing, but we shall see. We shall see. I mean, if the base game feels pretty nice before you even get to the point where you're building a big stompy thing, then that's a good thing. I need some stone, because it's telling me to make a wooden axe, but I don't have any stone. Oh, a wooden axe. Okay. Can I not just make a stone axe straight away? No. All right. It does not seem to record where I put my buildy table. I know I left it around here somewhere. The long grass is very pretty, but it's maybe making it harder for me to see where I left my building table. Ah, that's cool. You can do left alt and then you can click on stuff this way. Delicious blueberries. Num 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 num. And I'm gonna eat... Can I eat some batwing? I think that's the only edible thing I have. Alas, I'm gonna have to just build another... Oh, excuse me. Excuse me, weak slime. Oh, I died. It's quite disheartening for you to name the slime weak slime and then let it kill me like that. I think we're looking at Valheim multiplayer. It's sort of instance based. Dev said it's like 5 to 10. How do I get out of this place again? Bro. Oh. Okay. The statue bro opened the door for me. Paul has flu. Get well soon, Paul. Kapuscinski today in the chat is locked into sort of Hollywood producer mode, I think. I'm reading all of these messages, like, in that voice. Talk about a game idea with legs. This game's got so many legs. Look, I just want to make a wooden axe. Just want to make a wooden axe. Love that red star over there. Don't know if you can see make that out. It's very small, but there's red stars. They're cool. I love world building that poses questions before answers. It's so much more interesting to see a red star or an erd tree, like a big old erd tree, and go, how on earth is that? What is that? And then maybe have that answered later on in the game. I never want someone at the beginning of the game to go, listen guys, there's this massive tree and it's really important. Listen guys, there's these red stars. There's these red stars and they're so important. You wait till you hear how important these... No. Video game world building should be just show me a cool thing, allow me to wonder over it. Maybe tell me about the why and where of how of it later on. If I've been a really good boy. But don't tell me about it straight away. Just show me it and make me go, huh? Look. Slimes. I like how these slimes feel. I like their bounciness. I think every time you commit to a very generic game enemy, like a slime or a goblin or a skeleton, then I think you're always setting yourself the challenge of, like, how do we differentiate and make this feel unique to this game? And I think having those slimes bounce the way they do is really fun. Helps set the tone. Look, Snell, I didn't actually mean to attack you. I was trying to stop those... slimy hoodlums from wrecking my shit. But look. Mate. Can we just not have peace? I'm just trying to build stuff here. I'm trying to build some tools so I can do some other things and preview the other features of this video game. Right. Wooden axe. It's called a wooden axe, but it needs a stone. I would call that a stone axe. Usually, when we're talking about a tool, you name it after the thing that the blade is made out of, and not the thing that the handle is made out of. That skill is not ready. Collecting things is a skill. Right, I'm gonna I'm going to need some more stone. I can't mine stone, so I'm very much stuck with just what I can pick up off the floor. Oh no, I can hit the small rock. Mate. Hate crimed by another goth. I should have immunity from all bats in all games. Here we go. Okay, so I know that my crafting table is north of the 4 statues on the map, so I just need to memorize that. I can make some sand. That's exciting. So, do I need to use that, or is it just... Oh yeah, right quick. Okay, we are sort of equipping individual weapons and tools and stuff. That's nice. It's giving me some crafting recipes for some buildy-wildy, basey-wacy stuff now as well. Excuse me? Who's doing that? These snails. I've had enough of these snails. Who was it earlier who was saying, oh, those snails are too easy? The thing is, if you try and run away from them, they do like a Pokemon Earth Spike out of the ground. I'm dying again. It seems like most of my death in this comes from sort of aggroing random things that I didn't mean to attack. Small snail has small snail syndrome. He's just angry that he didn't get to be a telephone. The danger puddles, yeah. That's a good name for that sort of in-world UI thing. Danger puddle. Character UI. I've got a shirt. I've got some pants. Got some boots. Gonna take them off. Do they come off? How do I put them back on again? Oh no. Oh, I can there. Everything about this interface is pretty intuitive at the moment. I like that it's reasonably flat. Like, you haven't gone all out with the kind of old skeuomorphic Warcraft 3, everything's made of stone type thing. And I think that works very well here because you don't really want it to get in the way too much. And that blur, when we go into the menu, is a very nice attention to detail. So, I don't know if you can see that, but if I'm standing here, I go into the menu and I go into my character menu or my bag, we're blurring everything apart from the character, which is really nice because it allows me to see my character when I, take their clothes off. Although those ones don't come off, but some of them do, I think. Some of the things appear and disappear, like my weapon. So it puts the focus on the character, and I know a lot of games would say, okay, we're going to go to a separate screen and show the character as you dress them and stuff. And sort of just keeping the character in the world and blurring the background is a very nice way of achieving that effect without kind of taking us out of the experience. What am I building? I need to check my objectives. The moving fortress. Build a core. Wood, stone, slime goo. Okay, I need 5 stones, 10 woods, and a slime goo. The slimes are immediately useful in the game economy, which is interesting. Ah, all my stuff. Oh, that's good. How kind of you. Some leaves. I think I died here as well, but maybe I only leave one. No, I can pick them both up. Okay. Mate. I need to remember I have a dodge roll. The dodge roll forgetter has logged on. I got some experience. I am gonna only rob my own graves, but only because I'm the only person with a grave to rob. I mean, yeah, I didn't get any meat from the pig. I think the this is a very easy sell in terms of like making the case for this game to someone who would be into it, right? If someone said to me, "Oh, it's Breath of the Wild, but it's on small multiplayer servers so you can play it with your friends," I mean, that's an easy sell. And I feel like if you described this game that way to someone and then they played it, it wouldn't feel like... Sometimes when people compare indie games to big AAA or AA games, I don't think the comparison works in terms of like polish and game feel, but I do feel like the game feel and the polish that's already here is very, very high. So that wouldn't be a bad comparison to say, you know, it is like playing Breath of the Wild and that Lego Fortnite game at the same time. I don't think Lego Fortnite is a good marketing comparison because people that play Fortnite only play Fortnite and never play anything else. But it's feeling pretty good. I just want to find somewhere I can build without getting attacked. Let's build over here next to this Shadow of the Colossus looking MF. I'm sure I won't regret that. We want to build a core. Do I have the stuff for a core? Let me go back to my codex. Codex is H, right? So, crafting. I'm usually not super tolerant of games that expect me to learn crafting systems really quickly as well, but I sort of feel quite motivated to do this, and it's partly because I'm rushing because of the nature of this stream. But I also just genuinely want to get the thing. Resting and eating. I can build a campfire. Core. Tab hotkey. Okay, I can build a core. There we go. We have a core. We have some stuff we can build. I don't have a floor though. How about no? Okay. I'm gonna take my toys somewhere else, I think. 'Cause so in terms of I'm being a bit rubbish at the combat, generally speaking, which is why I've died a few times. But I think in terms of like the economy of this game, it feels like the healing items are quite few and far between. Ah, there we go. Cold soup. And maybe that's deliberate because it's hard to make things like cooking work unless there's a little bit of effort involved. I think, yeah, I'm having a little bit of a struggle with the fact that there's like, it's very hard to find somewhere where you're not constantly getting mobbed. Mobbed by mobs. A Chuck Tingle book. Look at the booty on that pig. The enemy animations in this are really, really charming. Big fan. Right. I'm a little bit aimless at the moment, so in a game like this, if I'm not immediately sure what I'm doing in that moment, I will just start harvesting stuff because you know you're going to need it. And that's fine. I think in something a bit sandboxy like this, players are going to oscillate between having like a real clear goal that they're following and just going around and doing the stuff. That's the nature of sandbox games. Again, not saying anything massively groundbreaking here, but I think it's doing a good job of sort of making it clear what I need to do next, but then sort of throwing spanners in the works so that I can't always focus on just doing that. Forging hammer. Paper scraps. Okay, so codex. Objectives. Build a core. Wood, stone, slime, goo. Did I not build a core? Did I build something else? That's a command unit. Okay, that's a core. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, they are visually similar. So a core has a floor in it. That's what I was struggling with before. I was like, I want to build a floor to put the core on, and I don't need to do that. So we're going to make a wooden door. Yeah. This is the good stuff. And it's very flexible. Very intuitive interface, just using the mouse wheel to rotate stuff, and it's kind of snapping into place where you would think it would, depending on where you're moving it. It sort of snaps, and then you have a bit of freedom about how to move it. Feed some items to the core. How about a bone? Yeah. This is a really good way to give things like a double value in the game's economy. Because you can have certain items where, okay, the player isn't trying to build anything with those items now, so they don't have any value. You can give them an additional value by like making them be fed to the core. So like this wooden plank can only be fed to a tier 1 core. Okay, so I can't feed it wooden planks yet. I think that's probably because we're going to get some sort of furnace in it, but that's only because I'm basing my mental model of what is going on in this game's fiction entirely off of Howl's Moving Castle. Your core is ready to evolve. I don't know if you noticed that there, Dev, but the button says feed when it actually means evolve in that upgrade step. The core was upgraded. Hello, core. Yeah. Okay, I made a boo-boo. These were on the ground. So you can build structures that are just like regular world structures like you would get in most of these games. And then you can either build them on the You can build them on the base, or you can build them... Yeah. Can jump. You can jump with my Baba Yaga chicken legs. So good. I'm very impressed, guys. This is really delivering on its promise, and the UX is really solid as well. Even though it must be quite hard to get this stuff right, I think. Yeah, I mean, everything just feels very intuitive in terms of how it is to do the basic stuff that you need to do. So I really want a crafting table in the base. That's what I want. I don't think I'm really ready to go and fight an iron golem in this, though. Yeah. Did that house just say... Grr? Oh, I keep forgetting I've got a... As always, folks, let me know how audio levels and stuff are for you. I have to change them a lot in these streams because we're switching between games, but as long as you can kind of hear the main stuff that the game is doing, it will auto-duck when I'm speaking over it, but... Build a bed. How many viewers have we got currently? 41. I'll build 41 beds in the base, and we can all have our beds next to each other in a big circle. 41 of them. That requires a better axe. I should have been reading that, but that's not a game feedback problem. That's a streamer brain problem. It's a little bit juddery, the movement up ladders. A door that opens from the floor. Can I put one of them there? Does that work? Oh yeah. I'm getting. It's always interesting to do. So there's a type of playtesting when you're running like professional playtests called Kleenex testing, which is basically the name for testing with someone who has never played the thing before and may never play it again. And I may play this again, but one of the interesting things with Kleenex testing is trying to work out whether, like, a struggle someone is having with the game is just what learning the game would always be like, right? So I'm having a little bit of a problem with, like, learning some of these build commands, like particularly the dismantle and stuff like that. And I don't think it's necessarily because they are like wrong or mapped to the wrong thing or anything like that. I think some of this is just, it is a complex game, and whatever you map, whatever buttons you map those things to, they're gonna be a little bit of a struggle. Hang on, let me just check which way is forward when we. Okay. The ladder is at the front. I don't want that. Can I move the ladder? No, the ladder is always going to be on the front. See, that feels strange, because I think players are going to want to put windows on the front, even if we don't need. This is going to sound stupid, right? But even if we don't actually need to see from the character's perspective when we drive the mech castle, players are still going to want a certain type of player, i.e. me, and people like me, is still going to want there to be windows on the front, so they can imagine the player characters looking out of those windows as they drive. So I think having the ladder here, I think the ladder should be at the back, so you're kind of climbing up into the butt of the creature, so that we can have windows on the front if we want to have windows on the front, because I feel like people will instinctively want to build windows here, both so that their characters can see out, even though that doesn't really matter from a gameplay perspective, but it does matter from like a fictional realism perspective, I guess you would call it. Players will care about that, so and they would also want to put windows on the front to make it look like eyes, because people be weird like that. Yeah, I'm sure the character does actually see through the core, but you know what people are like? Like, people like to... Like, I'm playing Fallout 4 at the moment for, like, the third time. And it's remarkable how much effort I put into making things look nice or cool that have absolutely no value in the way the game actually works when I'm building settlements and stuff in that game. And, yeah, you just need to allow for that, because you know people will do it. It's one of the sort of psychological needs that buildy type games allow for. So yeah, just imagining like how are people going to use this component. I think having the door, the obvious entrance on the back is gonna just free up that space at the front, so people can, yeah, exactly, so they can anthropomorphize the chicken house. That's exactly it. Man, these slimes. And I can imagine this being really fun when you're riding around in your core and you've got your whole gang in there as well. But I also really appreciate that this is working perfectly fine as a single player game from what I can see here, so... I think if you think of the kind of two big things that a game needs to do in order to be successful, it's like you need to have a sort of promise of what your game is. And however you describe the game, it doesn't have to be, oh, it's X meets Y. There has to be some basic hook that would make people interested in the game already. And I feel like the hook here is really simple. It's Breath of the Wild meets Howl's Moving Castle, and you can play it on a server with your friends, and it's co-op. That's a really good set of hooks. And the X meets Y works well because, generally speaking, people that like one of those things are going to like the other one, right? So sometimes when you say, oh, it's X meets Y, but the two things are so far removed, that can be fun. That can create a kind of like Cult of the Lamb has that, like cozy horror games have that, where it's like a conflicting set of appeals, and that makes you intrigued. But you know, Howl's Moving Castle and Zelda are not tonally very far apart in the first place, and the sort of people that like one of those things are going to like both of them. And But then you have to deliver on it. You have to like make an engaging, polished attempt at that thing, and this is doing very well. I've already said it, but I mean, if you're making a game that people are going to compare to Breath of the Wild or something like that, you want that to be a favorable comparison. You don't want people to say, "Oh, it's like Breath of the Wild, but it's really jank" or something. And again, this doesn't feel jank at all. There's some bits that, like climbing the ladders and certain parts of building, feel a bit clunky, but I think some of that is because you're trying to make sure it's flexible and it's, you know, not super stopping me from glitching through a wall or whatever, if it would be better from a gameplay perspective for me to glitch through that wall or whatever, you know. Can I jump up there? Can I climb the ladder when I'm jumping? Out of range. Oh yeah, I can. That's great. I'm gonna feed some. No, I'm not. I want to build. I want to build some more things. Okay, so because our ladder is on the front, I'm gonna put a door there, just so that we don't have like an open front all the time. Storage, energy. Oh, we can put little wind turbines on it. What do these require? Copper. We're going to need a lot of copper if we want to get to a point where we can actually blow stuff up with this. This can only be placed on the ground. Needs to be placed in a home with walls and a roof. So demanding. Any insight on making traversal through the map not boring? I mean, some of that comes down to variety. I mean, one of the things I was thinking when I was first running around in this is the grass kind of makes it difficult to see. And that's not necessarily like get rid of the grass, because the grass is pretty and it's nice. But I think having more variety in terms of the way that different areas look, because I think there's always a temptation to go, oh, we're gonna have biomes and then this biome is everything is green, and it's like, yeah, okay, but it doesn't provide you that moment to moment variety of like this little bit of woods and then this bit over here. So I think in terms of like level or world design, I've got this little forest here, and what I would do if I was in the editor is I would go to every corner of the forest and look out. And I would just try and make sure that there's something in the far distance and something in the near distance from every corner of the forest that is different. And it could just be that one has, like, in the near distance, has a big bare part of ground with no grass on. And one of them has a lake, and one of them has something else. So every time you've got a place where players might look around and try and orient themselves, there's a different thing in every direction. It doesn't have to be like a remarkable different thing, like a big landmark. It can be that sometimes, and, you know, in a starting location, you want those off in the distance, but maybe the near distance, just because otherwise if everything looks the same in every direction, it becomes very, very hard to learn. So I would, in terms of Jorge's question in the chat, which was how do you make it not boring to traverse the world, I would focus on landmarks and differentiation between places for navigation first. Treat it as a navigation problem rather than a boring / variety problem, and then it will become more interesting and varied as a result of you trying to make it better to navigate, because places that look too similar in every direction are just too difficult to navigate within games. We have a map to make up for that here, but you still kind of, you want people to be able to play without the map for a little while if they can. I think I just need to collect loads of wood. One of the things I would recommend to the developer for this is make your demo a bit more, make the economy in your demo in terms of how many resources you get and how much they cost to to build different things. Accelerate it for your demo, so that, you know, in a session like, because you're going to have lots of things like this with the streamer playing a game for an hour or 3 hours or whatever, and you want those early showcases to show a bit more of the game than people would actually get in that time. So I would make a separate set of balancing for your demo than for the actual game as well. Because this is quite slow, and it's kind of what I would expect like the full game to be, in terms of like how quick we're getting stuff and getting to build stuff. But I just think when you're in this early stage, when you're just trying to generate interest in the game, and maybe you're trying to make sure that enough players get to later game features so that you can test them and make sure that they work, then yeah, I would just accelerate everything a little bit. Oh, that's a floor. Okay, so on these icons, I have struggled to find the floor every time I've come into this menu, and it's because this one is angled like a roof. So this is a floor. This is angled how I would expect a floor, like an isometric thing viewed almost from the side. But then this one is not angled that way, so I would fix the angle of view of this. That's really, really small feedback, and I know it's... I always think it's a good sign when the feedback you're getting during playtesting is this kind of very small stuff that I can't see what I'm building because of the grass. We're going to build a little house over here. We really need to delete the grass when we build the house, though, because it makes it feel like a very run-down house with the grass coming through the floor. And that's too much like real life. My little swamp house that I live in. Can I put the house on legs? Can I raise a house up? Maybe if I do this at the bottom and then I put a floor on top of it. Can I do that? Yeah, that's kind of what I'm going for. Like that. Really need a light source. So occasionally it's not catching and clipping onto the thing it should. We can see those connection point little marker things are quite helpful here, though. It's very, very intuitive. I think everything in terms of how like the interaction works is pretty decent. Can't quite fit that in where you would think it would go, but I'm also not going to spend loads of time on it. I just want a bed, guys. Just want a bed. Yeah. Cozy. Finally, my first sleeps. Yeah, oh, it's time to wake up. Can I build a lantern? Do I have anything like that? A decorative cloth. Can I put that up? Oh, that's cute. Look at that. It's quite hard to attach things to the to the roof. Cannot place object underground. I wasn't trying to. I wasn't trying to place an object under the ground. You just assumed. You just assumed I was trying to place an object under the ground. I would never do that. I'm just trying to build my gaff. Trying to build my yard. There we go. Mate. This is private property. You better not come over here. I'm gonna be so mad. If he doesn't read my no warthog sign, comes over here anyway, I'm gonna be so angry. Yeah, so I think the biggest sticking point for the building at the moment is the way that roof objects interact with each other. You can get a rooftop object to build on top of a wall, but you can't get them to click onto stuff next to them. And I've maybe messed this up because I've put like a little bit there. But, you know. It is what it is, whatever that means. It's a little bit higgledy. It's a little bit piggledy. But it's home. God bless this mess. The champ is here, the champ of that mobile game. This game is called Loya. Loya. L-O-Y-A. It's very, very impressive. We are trying to build a walking house, a walking castle to go and fight a big boy. Oh, I don't have a... So one thing we don't have is the ability to pick up objects that are already there and move them around. I'll have to always dismantle the thing, which feels a bit rough. There we go. Look at that. I mean, it's looking a bit ropey over here. See, I don't need any of this. I don't need to do any of this. It's just compelling. It's just compelling. To make it feel more like a little house. Basic human needs. Okay. Hal's walking gaff. This is Hal's walking gaff. Can I squish the pig? I should be able to squish the pig. It would be a bit broken though, wouldn't it, if you could just go and jump on creatures to farm them. I mean, maybe it would work if you didn't get an XP game for it. So you could just go and run on and squish animals to get their resources, but your character didn't get any XP if you did that. That feels like it would be a good trade-off. This all reminds me a bit of in the forest. You could kind of aggro and kite the enemies into chopping down trees for you, and it was very, very satisfying to do that. I find the Z shortcut quite difficult to get my hand to when I'm playing, and maybe it's just because I don't play a lot of like action-y PC games where you don't use a controller, so like things like League and stuff like that. But I feel like that one in particular is quite difficult for me to get my fingers to when I'm using WAS to get around. Okay, let's see what we've got in our... So I'm going to have to wrap this one up and check out the next game now. But what did we do? We had like an objective of building a moving fortress, and we did that. We didn't get to the point where I could have any guns or stuff, because I needed to have copper and iron to actually add weapons to it. But in terms of like the game design, this is all really well signposted, and it just seems to strike a very good balance between you can mess about and do what you want, but everything's here if you want to know what to do next. This is very well structured. We've got a lot of different objectives. Some of this is just like general game system stuff of here's how you don't die. Make a forge. Yeah, it's really, really solid. It feels like there's enough of an economy here for it to feel kind of crunchy, but not so much that it's daunting. Like, knowing that my next stage in the progression of this game is to start getting steel and copper, because that's how you do the cool stuff on the fortress, is very kind of very intuitive, and yeah, it just gives me a very clear next step in what I'm trying to do. I guess to compare it to another crafty game, if you think of like a Subnautica, that game really needed that thing where you had like a shopping list and you could click on a thing you're trying to build and it added it all to the side of the screen and said, because it was so unintuitive, because it wasn't wood, copper, steel, stuff like that. Those things in a fantasy setting are just a lot easier to remember. And I think that is one of the reasons why when you do crafty buildy games and they're in science fiction settings like Subnautica or No Man's Sky, it becomes a little bit fiddlier to sort of remember how you build certain things and stuff, and they have to go down like kind of narrative design routes of like, well, the way you build stuff is through this machine that kind of changes matter into different things and stuff, and it's just... Yeah, there's something very intuitive about the systems and the economy here that I think is very good and appealing. Yeah, I feel like it might be interesting to do a group playtest on this on the channel at some point. So, Dev, if you're still in the chat and you want that to happen at some point in the next month, then yeah, get some keys together and I'll get some members of our Discord community and we'll try and do a live one with more people, because I do think I would like to play this with more people. It's very, very promising, and just want to see what it's like with some more people in. So let's move on to the next game. That is Loya, probably Loya actually. But yeah, it's not in early access yet. It is like in a beta testing phase. Really impressed with everything I saw there. Not the sort of thing I would normally play day to day, but I can see how it's executing well on all of the things it's trying to do there. And I just, yeah, it's also greater than the sum of its parts, you know, because if you said this is a game of House Moving Castle. Well, it's not really, it's more than that. And if you said, oh, this is multiplayer Breath of the Wild, it's not really, it's more than that. So that is good. It feels like it over-delivers on the core thing, set of things it's going to do. So, yeah. And very good Steam description. Survive, build, and command walking bases armed with cannons to battle giant monsters in this unique multiplayer open world game. Yeah, that's good. That is solid. It focuses on what the player is doing rather than giving a list of like genre jargon. Let's check out Echo or Eco and the Bewitched Land. So this is more of like a top-down Zelda type thing. I'm feeling quite hopeful about this one as well. This looks quite charming from what I saw on the Steam page. And I said at the start of the stream, I really like the character design here. He feels like a guy that's not a tough guy that's trying to be a tough guy. And I really feel that if you're trying to do something Zelda adjacent, that is the ideal character design. They should be cool, but they should be cool in a kind of Bart Simpson kind of way. A little guy in a big world that's kind of scrappy, you know? Deep within a bewitched forest, a young adventurer felt the call of something ancient and powerful. We're getting a lot of different typefaces. We've got this kind of SpongeBob-y typeface on the skip button, and then this more Harry Potter looking thing in those story cards. It was a chibi fairy getting zapped by a spider with big bazongas. He didn't know what was yet to come. Okay, character feels very nice to move around. That's like first test. Before anything happens in your game, if you're making a character-driven action game. We've got a dodge roll, which is on A, which feels very, very strange because I've played so many games with the dodge roll on B that maybe I can remap it. Is there an option to do that yet? No. So yeah, every action RPG I've ever played has dodge roll mapped to B or circle. Maybe there's a reason why it's there, but it feels odd. Too many options describing stuff that we haven't encountered in the game yet, so sure. The music feels very out of place. I'm turning it down a bit because it's very, very loud and it's sort of... It's evocative, but it's not giving action game. I feel like audio has been treated as a bit of an afterthought here. We've got really, really beautiful art assets across the board. Like the interface looks really nice. I can read it reasonably well. Like, there's nothing on the screen right now where I look at it and I go, oh, what's that? I don't know what food is. I don't know what these icons are up in the top right, but I can kind of tell what they are. This loosely resources. But Yeah, there's just... There weren't any sounds when I was hitting the enemies. We've got an attack sound. Like the swooping of the sword. But when I was hitting those enemies, there weren't any impact sounds. And that's kind of an alarm bells type thing, because the game feel of how it feels to whack an enemy in an action game is really important. Yeah, there's no impact sounds for hitting enemies. There was a ding that time. Seems like there's sometimes a light ding and sometimes there's not. Yeah. Hot World's in the chat making some good points about controller remapping. I've got a fire dash now. That feels pretty good. That's a nice augmentation of an existing ability. I always like getting upgrades where it's like you don't have to learn a new button. It just changes how that button operates in some way, but not in a it is now always better kind of thing. Oof. Yeah, let's see. There is an impact sound. The music is very loud and it doesn't really match with what's happening. Okay, so we died. We go back to camp. We've got some sort of Hades type stuff of like you can have a main weapon and that changes like the game overall, I think. So this guy wants you to collect food and give it to him. Yeah. Yeah, is dodge mapped onto A in Hades? I can't remember. It's been a very long time since I played Hades. I remember my experience of Diablo 3 mainly being like a meta game about constantly remapping the abilities on the controls. It was like weirdly part of the fun. Okay. It feels like it needs a tutorial run where we don't immediately get met with one of these, because now I sort of understand the basic movement and how the game works. I'm interested in reading these and finding out what they do. But the very first run I wasn't. So we can have a dash, static burst, an electronic dash, chain light. I'm always going to pick chain lightning if you give me a chain lightning option. That's fun. And Y is to do bombs, apparently. Okay, straight into a shop when I don't have any money seems like a bad... Funnily enough, like when I looked at the Steam page for this at the start, I said randomly generated isn't an appealing set of words to use for your game. Procedurally generated is different from random. Going into a room and just immediately finding a shop where you can't afford anything. Okay, so I can backtrack, so that makes it slightly different. So at least now I know I can go and collect money and then come back to this point. But I think there's probably a reason why a lot of these games don't allow backtracking, and it's like a pacing thing of wanting the player to feel like they're always moving forward. I don't think you can backtrack in Cult of the Lamb either. The bow feels pretty fun to use. What's that? Shadow Bomb. I want a Shadow Bomb. I'm just picking things based on if the name is cool. But I don't have any bombs. They're like a limited resource. The sound of the arrows hitting is not great either. It's like a very... It's a very sort of dead wooden sound, and it sounds more like a error is happening or something is being blocked. I mean, audio design is really difficult. It's this kind of own discipline in its own right. There's some good sounds in here. The sounds that the enemy are making is really good. I think the sounds of the arrows hitting is like disproportionately loud and also sounds like something negative is happening. I also haven't seen the chain lightning trigger anywhere. Is that happening when there are multiple enemies? Oof. Good. I'm gonna go back to the sword because I didn't like the sound effect of the arrow. Which sounds terrible, but it is... I mean, someone in the chat was saying this the other day about making guns feel better by changing the sound, changing nothing about the practical gameplay, and that is a thing. That is a thing that's happened in like big shooting games where the community have got really annoyed with the developers because they thought that a gun was nerfed, and they just changed the sound effect. Burn everyone when I go into a room. Release a burst of fire when I get hit. I never want abilities that compensate for when you get hit or hurt. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be in the game. I'm just saying that I'm just thinking out loud about how I make my choices because that's what you should do when you playtest. But I always find abilities that are like, when you get hurt, do this. They're just, I guess they trigger some sort of loss aversion thing where I think, well, I don't want to have to get hurt to use an ability. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be in the game. It's a playstyle thing, and it's good to have those kind of things. Is this just a... These aren't enemies, they're just trap type things? That's why they don't have health bars, I guess. I like these enemy designs. Yeah, I think a lot of the sounds that are to do with your sword or your arrows hitting enemies, they just need to come more from the perspective of like what would be a satisfying noise to hear, rather than thinking about what the realistic sound would be. I think they've chosen sounds based on thinking about the actual physical properties of the things rather than what would be satisfying. What I would do is I would keep the sounds that are there, make the arrows a little bit quieter, and then add like a really punchy like kung fu punch sound in with them. So every time you hit an enemy, you get a different quite quiet kung fu punch sound, and then you also get the sound that is specific to that weapon, but you get like a very kind of satisfying crunchy you hit an enemy sound that is generic for every weapon, because at the moment it's like it just needs some layering. I think I'm going to turn the music back up because it sounds like we've got something. It's still this very kind of pensive, slightly scary music. Yeah, this is like you know, someone in the chat talking about Zelda. This is like a modernized NES Zelda, you know? Like, instead of taking the Zelda lineage from the 3D Zelda games, like, what if we made a top-down Zelda now? Which I guess is what a lot of these like dungeon run roguelikes like Hades and Cult of the Lamb are doing is that kind of thing. Like, you can see Zelda DNA in Binding of Isaac even. It's just people think of it as a shooter because you're shooting, but it's the way that the dungeons work is very what's that? Magic Cube. I've got some sort of currency that I've collected, but I don't seem to be getting anything between runs that I can use. I haven't watched all of the Sakurai videos, but I think I watched the one that was just specifically about Kirby, I think. And it was very, very good. The thing that's really interesting about Kirby is it looks more complex than Mario. Like, if you compare a Kirby game to a Mario game, there's more on screen in a Kirby game. There's more button inputs and stuff like that. But most of those things are added to make the game more forgiving for a younger audience, which is it's really a really interesting dynamic there. It's like having a health bar instead of one hit kills. It's like it's a more complex mechanic to understand than just when you get touched you die, but it makes the game softer as well. And having the flap mechanic does the same thing as well. I'm going to go for the static dash. Right, we need to beat these guys to get that key. Look at those. That's a great enemy. Like a weird... Oh, that's its tail. I thought that was its head. So the fire dash leaves damage behind you. The static dash, you sort of go into enemies with it and it hurts them. That's a nice distinction. My biggest bugbear that happens probably most often in sort of fantasy action games is when you have like elemental damage and it's literally just the same thing with a different animation, and you know, enemies have different weaknesses and stuff. Like, I want them to feel a bit different to use. So I really like that we've got an electric dash and a fire dash, and they're not just different color, different you know, they are actually functionally different to use. And that means that you can start to think about, like, oh, if we did do a build that was all fire versus a build that was all electricity, you could have like a different playstyle mapped onto that thing, and you could start to associate with like, oh well, fire is much more the maybe fire is easier because you leave damage behind and you run away from the enemies, and electricity is more like a high risk, high reward glass cannon type playstyle. So I'm not sure if that's what we have here, but it feels like it could lead to that. I'm going to go with the chain lightning attack and go over here. Yeah, just stack the sound effects. We should have, like, the enemies should have a different sound effect for when you hit them, depending on what they're made out of as well. Like, we have an enemy made of stone or clay, and we have an enemy with metal armor, and we have an enemy made of a soft material. They should all have their own little set of impact sounds when you hit them. It's the main thing that you're doing over and over again in the game, so it needs to feel really good. Burn everyone when we go into a room. Really quite unforgiving first few runs, and I don't know where I can spend this resource that I'm collecting, this like Souls type, collectible XP type stuff. I've also not seen a way to actually obtain the bombs. I don't think these paths should be here when you can't go to the next room, because like I can see from the mini map that we can't go to the top right or top left, but the level design that creates a suggestion that there's a path that way. So let's get rid of these bridges as well. Affordances theory. Affordances theory. You look at something and it has affordances and it tells you how to use it. So if we have these arenas, if we don't get rid of these bridges, it just looks like there's a doorway up that way when there's not. And that in turn leads to small moments of frustration, which in turn ends up with the game feeling cheap, because you've not thought about these little things. And that's not a big criticism, it's a tiny criticism. And as I said with the last game, when the feedback you're getting is on tiny little things like sound effects or this path shouldn't be here and stuff like that, that's generally a good sign, right? If the feedback you're getting was like, it doesn't feel good to dash around and hit stuff, then you've got a real problem. This is small stuff. This is really small. It's not fundamentals. It's small moments of polish. Okay. If the build system feels a bit like it forces you into specializing on one element. I haven't seen anything yet that is designed to sort of reward you for having a mix of elements, which is a shame. Right, he wants some meat. I don't have any way to spend this resource I'm getting. Is there something here that I'm missing? Is there like a shop that I haven't found, or... Try the bow again. One thing I would say is overall the level of visual polish of this is where it should be. You know, I don't think this game needs much iteration in that direction, but the audio feels like the weakest area. And then at the moment, what I can see of the abilities doesn't inspire a great deal of confidence, because it feels very much like it's ramroding you into picking an element straight away and then sticking with that element and building into that element. I haven't seen anything that is going to... Which is a shame, because I like the idea of building a character that like has this poison attack and this fire attack and stuff. But I don't know, it feels a bit like it's railroading your builds. Weak points. Dash while gaining invisibility and create a smoke bomb at the end. That sounds fun. Let's be a little bow ninja guy this time. That's me being invisible. I'm not sure how helpful invisibility is in a game where enemies don't have any other targets, but let's see how it works. That enemy is still fully looking at me and tracking me when I'm supposed to be invisible. I got a grenade this time. Okay. Really got to dodge in this game. You can't skimp on the dodge, because they will get you. Yeah, if you want to sell the idea of this being a stealth move, the enemies really need to stop looking at you when you use the dash. Because this is supposed to be like a... The other thing that's really strange about the sound effect for the arrows is it's a stereo sound that is panned slightly to the left. I'm listening to it with headphones. Well, you can see I've got headphones on, but it makes it sound like a UI sound for like, oh, I'm clicking on something on the left of the screen, because we've got a 3D space in the world, and we've got this like stereo pan sound that doesn't move. So I think part of fixing that would either be to put it in 3D space on the screen, so all of the impact sounds are emitted from a particular place on the screen, or just make sure that you mono the sound effects that you put in your game engine, because at the moment that is a stereo sound that is slightly panned, maybe all the way panned, I can't tell, but I can tell enough for it to feel very weird, because the fact that it's panned and it doesn't correspond to the physical position of stuff on the screen means that it feels like it should be coming from a direction in the game, and it's not. And it's a fixed direction on my headphones. It's just always going click, click, click over here. So that makes it feel like it's a UI sound rather than an in-world sound, if that makes sense. Because it's not... it's three-dimensional, it's stereo, it's panned, but it's not related to anything that's happening in the kind of in-world of the game. It's very strange. We got a killing spree card that we can... Yeah, the enemies really, like, when you use that Shadow Step stealth ability, what needs to happen is the lock-on thing that the enemies are doing stops, and they just pick a random direction and walk in it. And maybe they walk in it at half speed, so it doesn't look like they're still attacking. So they pick a random direction that's not the direction you're in, and they sort of move off in a slower speed so that they look a bit confused and like they're kind of dazing around, because at the moment it just looks like they're still attacking you. And that makes me feel disappointed, because I like a stealth build. This isn't the sort of game where I would expect a stealth build to exist or work. So if you're going to put it in there, then you need to deliver on the idea. Still looking at me. That one's not. He stopped looking at me. So I don't know. It was happening with the mushroom guys earlier. Got some grenades. Yeah, that's a good shout. I mean, that one is moving to where it saw me, but it looks like the slimes don't really follow you anyway. Is that little purple star on their forehead showing that they've got like some kind of stealth or confused status? I think I do prefer the bow, even though I don't like how it sounds. So we're gonna try that. Static burst feels like a bad mix with the bow because it's encouraging you to go into them, but we'll see. I do love all the VFX and everything, like the the little markers for the abilities and all of the VFX are absolutely gorgeous. That moment of slowdown, so much of the visual direction's really, really good. I think some of the game design needs a little bit more thought, and the audio is the weakest area. Okay, yeah, I'll change that ability for the fire one because the lightning dash isn't going to be good with the bow. Still keep trying to press B to dash. Also, I know you're doing the pitch variation on the dash sound for the guy. I would get a few different her sounds and pick a random one and then pitch vary it because, again, it's a very common action. You can't skimp on the visual and audio feedback for very common actions. You need to do like as much as you can to vary it because it will become irritating otherwise. And right, so these are for coins. I have 50 coins bottom left. Okay, so in terms of the way that the UI is based, the stuff at the bottom left is my current run, and the stuff at the top right is the long-term metagame stuff. Okay, cool. Thank you for giving me your heart, old man. This feels slightly inappropriate. Brainoid, maybe you can make the sequel for them. That's a golem thing that whacks you. Every time you enter a new room, freeze all enemies. Let's go with that. Let's collect the resource that doesn't seem to do anything. Can I get to that? Is that fire actually... Oh yeah, you have to dash through it. Okay. I love it when an eyeball is also a bat. It's a classic. Castlevania looking MF. It's just a classic thing to be. The eyeball with wings. Oh, I was in the zone then. You can tell when I'm in the zone because I shut up. I'm not... Yeah, I haven't felt like the backtracking has had a negative impact on my experience, but it could be doing that in a subconscious way. It's really not much to walk back through one of these rooms, and I think the negative thing of having to backtrack could be the sort of thing that you end up planning around trying not to do, but yeah, I don't know. Enter the Gungeon did really need that because the levels feel quite big to walk across. Hitting an enemy's weak point will do more damage. I don't know what that is. I really like that sort of inverse shading thing that happens when you hit the enemies. It looks really nice. What's that though? Is that... It's like a... Ah, hang on. Did we find a secret? Did I blow up a secret thing? I like the enemy design. I like that we're getting sort of enemies that drop things and make other things and all of that kind of stuff. It makes the space of what you need to think about within a given room feel a lot richer. I like that. What was that? I don't know what that was. Can you sell me your heart again, please, mister? Okay, I've got enough to get some other stuff. Are those water? Nine water damage. Your water abilities healed 10% more deal. Okay. I thought maybe we had water abilities that healed you when they triggered, but they don't. Alas. 8 bombs. Ooh. We're leveling up one of these. I'm going to level up the one that seems to do something. That's how I'm going to make that choice. I'm going to level up the ability that appears to do something and not level up the ability that doesn't appear to do anything. These are bomb tiles. Oh yeah, you're right. Okay. Bomb traps. some life. I've got an Inferno. I'm going to go back and spend my last 100 on another thing in the shop because this is the best I've done. So I may as well try and consolidate that a little bit. Let's get another Ice Bomb. And yeah, just more water damage because we've already got two ranks of that on our bow. So just a little water guy, going around shooting people with his bow. I feel like the weapon projectile should at least change color when you've got an elemental attack. Give me some little splooshy. The impact does. The impact is great, but the actual projectile just looks like a regular arrow. That roll's quite difficult to line up. Oh, that's what my Inferno ability does. It gives me a little wiggly woo. Bottle of water. I can give him some meat now. I've got some meat for you. You give me your heart, I give you some meat. It's all above board. Nothing dodgy at all. The power of bottle of water. I don't want the shadow step anymore. Doesn't feel good. I could never make anything sound dodgy. I'm just an innocent man. Just normal men. Nothing in this room. Oh yeah, this combat triggers when I touch the chest. The downgrade after you've used the weapon a few times and then leveled it up and then you do another run, it feels so weak in comparison. I think there's something to be said for... So in Hades, you can basically always choose what weapon you want to have. And then in Cult of the Lamb, you pick at the start of the run between some options. And I quite like the Cult of the Lamb approach because it forces you to not use the same thing twice in a row. And I think that might be beneficial here because I'm just doing my second row in a run with the bow, or maybe more than that. But because I leveled the bow up a bit, and then I'm using the bow again, it feels so weak. It makes the weapon feel terrible. Because we're using the same thing, but with like a third of the power or whatever. Just makes the first few rooms feel like a slog. Right, I've got an Inferno. I know what that does now. It's like a spinny AoE type thing. Don't make me do the Talos Principle. I don't want to play the Talos Principle right now. I want to do shooting stuff with my bow. Okay. Level up that thing. Still not sure what it does. So that bomb, the trap bomb, doesn't blow stuff up like a normal bomb would, which is a shame, because that feels like it could be quite a fun interaction. Treasure room. Crate of the Lamb. Wonderful. Ripple dash. Oh, he wets himself when he rolls now. Has a little accident. A magic shard. Uh-oh. It's you, and I haven't really leveled up my stuff properly yet. Oh, oh, oh. Oh. I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to do one more run, and then I'm going to wrap this up. The water does hurt them, yeah. It's... Wait, I picked up some of these. Are those a currency you only get if you complete the run? That's mean. It's up at the top. So I've never really worked out... Ah, here we go. I can upgrade the bow. That's what those abilities are for. Okay, so the not the abilities. That's what those silver-looking souls credits things are for. Okay, we've got a leveled up bow now. One more run with a more powerful bow. Maybe get some abilities that we didn't get previously. What I don't understand is why the draft allows me to pick this when I don't have any water abilities yet. So you can pick like the elemental specialist ability when it doesn't upgrade anything. I'm going to go for Ripple Dash again, because having the dash upgraded to do damage just seems to be pretty universally good in this game. Although the electricity one is the hardest to use. You really need to be using a melee weapon for the electricity dash to be worth it, because dashing into the enemies to damage them when you've got a bow just is a bit counterproductive. All of this is good stuff, though. It's good that I can think these things through. That means that the whole point of having abilities that you select and you create a build out of needs them to work in this way, where you can think about the combinations and the synergies and stuff. Because if it's just percentage changes and no no functional difference in terms of like how they interact with the movement mechanics and how they interact with different weapon types, then there's no thinking for the player to do, and that's why people enjoy build-based games. Not sure how mega shards work. And as always, you know, just a reminder, every time you use the word shard in a game, I just think of shard, and I'm sorry for that, but I do. Because I'm a puerile person with a childish mind. Yeah, I much prefer... I prefer a system where you have big, chunky changes in things as well, Flandis. People avoid doing it because it's expensive to do in terms of time and effort, but the difference compared to just having loads of little incremental upgrades for things is massive in terms of just good feels and good stuff for a player to think about and strategize about. There's definitely situations where incremental changes can be a good thing to have, but I don't think they should ever be the only thing. Unless you are making an incremental game where it's all numbers and just like feeling the change in number changes over time, you know? I like that I can put out the fires with my water dash as well. That's cool. Just make the thing work the way people expect. Really leveling that. We've got like 3 ranks in the water dash ability now. It's the highest I've got any ability ranked up. Oh, right. That's it. That was Eko and the Bewitched Lands. I think that is a public demo if you want to play it. Yep. I like that. I think it has some weak areas. I don't think those weak areas are things that are difficult to fix. The sound design is particularly weak. Just weird stuff like having a stereo sound that's panned to one side for a thing that's supposed to be hitting enemies in the game world. Very weird. But sometimes people just have a blind spot. And in this case, it's a deaf spot, I guess. Let's see. Any games previous to this? No, it looks like the first game by those developers. Yeah, reasonably impressed with that. I feel like it nails a lot of the things that a game in this genre needs to do. The central character is kind of lovable, and the enemy designs are nice. Few people in the chat sort of comparing the enemy designs to other things, saying it feels a bit derivative, but I mean, it's kind of what people expect as well. And at least we're not just doing slimes and skeletons. We've got some different sorts of enemy designs in there. Most of the weapon upgrades and abilities felt interesting to use. Some of them, you know, the stealth thing didn't really work for me. Just some small details in terms of how those different weapons are implemented, and just the kind of selection of what weapons you get, what upgrades you get offered, like having a generic boost to an element that when you don't have any elemental attacks yet, it's just like, it feels a bit weird to have that in the rotation at the start of the rotation of things you can select. So do I have the next stream for next Tuesday planned yet? Let me have a look. What I've probably done, so I have a Google Calendar, and I plan stuff out on that first. Next Tuesday, I might do a dev stream. So my intention is... So I've got everything on my Google Calendar, which I can't really show because it's got nuclear launch codes on. But my intention for September is we carry on doing Indies Under the Knife every Thursday. And then on Tuesday, I'm going to do some dev streams. Then we're going to have a community stream, so games from the Discord, every other Wednesday. So Wednesday the 10th and Wednesday the 24th. Because I have found that since our Discord's got bigger, we now have more games in that pool. And yeah, the last community stream I did this week, Tuesday, just had more games in than I could get through. So to make sure that people support the channel on the Discord, get their games seen in that stream, I'm going to do them every other week for the next couple of months at least, see how it goes. The goat, has anything else happened with the goat? There is also now a machine you can feed the goat into to sell it. Keita is asking about the goat in my game. Yeah, you can. There's a like a sci-fi room you can build that's called an auto market, and there's like a vending machine that you can throw objects into, and it turns them into coins, and then the coins go ping 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 out the back of the machine. You have to go round to the back to get them out, and you can throw the goat in there. Yeah. There's lots of new rooms. I found a library that, hang on, I'll just get my game up for like 5 minutes at the end because I've got it installed, I think. So I've had someone on the community playtest this yesterday, and I think some of the biggest issues at the moment are camera. That's my splash screen. Camera and like pixels doing weird stuff because of the camera. But yeah, there's a whole new room building system that I got from a library from someone in the Game Maker community. Made this library where you can like build a room and then save a screenshot of it. So now we've got this. So we've got the auto market. I can oh yeah, look, it was meant to be. The goat has spawned already, so I can go and get him. Oh, I forgot I'd changed the button mapping, and I just punched him instead of picking him up. And now the machine won't accept him because it won't accept a dead. That would be very funny. I don't know who else does those kind of game reviews, but it would be funny to do it. Yeah, I forgot that I'd changed the button mapping, so I've got a punch now. I don't know if anyone else has been following me making this game. He's kind of got the Adventure Time face now as well. I gave him the like 2 dots for eyes Adventure Time face. And you can also just go and punch a wall for a bit. I really don't consider myself to be Gordon Ramsay, but I'll take the compliment. The thing that's really funny about Gordon Ramsay is like you see all the clips of him, and he has this reputation and stuff. But then if you watch the full show, the only people that he really loses it with are like business owners. Like he's usually quite reasonable, and it tends to be if there's a business owner who, is messing up in a really dire way, and they're mistreating their staff or they're just mismanaging their business, they're the people that he really loses it with. So yeah, I mean, big up Comrade Ramsay, I guess. I've been working on this for, I would say, about 3 months. And it is, I would say it's a bit over polished for the state that it's in. Because I tried to work in a kind of, I guess you would call it a horizontal slice. I'm trying to build a little bit of all of the game because it's a loop-based, run-based game. So there are lots of bits that are probably over-polished for how far the game is in, but also I've got a lot to learn about implementation because I haven't really used a game engine for a couple of years, apart from like Unreal for Fortnite and stuff that I had to use for work. But yeah, it's reasonably well polished. I'm working with another developer who... That's probably a bit loud. I'm working with another developer who is better at GML than me. And when I get really stuck with something, I just paying him for a few hours to just fix those particular things. So I've just had a load of physics collision type problems fixed that were before. They were the sort of thing that I could play around, but a playtester would not know to play around them. Oh, this is a nice interaction. So you spawn the security room. You can see it gives you the key card for these doors, and then you can open them in the other blue rooms. But in order to get in there, you either need to build round to the other side, or you can do the danger run across the roof, which is like, could kill you because the void freezes you if you spend too much time outside of the bounds of the level. So, and then now I've got that blue thing, I can go through here, I can pick up more of these relics. Now that I've got that key. But yeah, this is like, I would call it like a horizontal slice, because all of these like sci-fi blue rooms are the end game. They're like the stuff you unlock when you've been playing the game for hours and hours, and you've unlocked. They're the deck building. They're the thing that you get that you add to your draft pool of rooms. And they're not going to be in the start of the game. They're only going to be stuff for later on. But I think when you're building... I think if you think about Loya, the first game we looked at today with the base building, I think a similar thing exists for like base building games. Any game where you're building or drafting, you sort of want to build the end of the game first and then work out how the players unlock the stuff. Because if you just start off with like the most mundane stuff, like, oh, you can build a table and a wall, then it doesn't really help you to test if the game is delivering on like the central cool thing. And in a base building game, it's like, I get to build a cool base, not just like I get to build a hut. And yeah, so ABNNR, by horizontal slice, I mean, so a vertical slice is like, when you used to get the shareware demo of Doom, you got the third of the game, right? So Doom and a bunch of the 3D Realms games like Duke Nukem and stuff, they used to give out a shareware, and it was like one act of a 3-act game. And that's a horizontal slice, because if you take the entire timeline of a player playing the game, it is just a horizontal slice of no, that is a vertical slice. Sorry, that is a vertical slice. The timeline of the game, and the player is playing a chunk of it if you sliced it horizontally, right? So they're playing Act 1 of the game. They did it with Baldur's Gate 3 as well. The open access demo was Act 1 of the game. That is a traditional vertical slice because you're giving people a part of the game. I think if you've got a game that is run based or is based on like city building or something like that, you're better off doing a horizontal slice, which is like you give people as much of the game as possible in terms of like they can play it start to finish, but there's just a bunch of stuff missing in the gaps, right? So another game that I played recently that did that was Netcrawl, the demo of Netcrawl. This is great. This was such a good game. This totally melted my brain, but in a very good way. So this is like a roguelike deck builder where you're doing like a little puzzly thing on a hexagonal board and you're hacking. In their demo, they've created something they call a deep run. So you play the tutorial and then you play the deep run, which is like, here is, you are playing a whole game of Slay the Spire, but it just doesn't have all the enemies. It doesn't have all the cards. You can still play it start to finish, right? So that would be another example of something I would consider to be a horizontal slice rather than a vertical slice, right? So it's not a term that gets used very much, but it's a term that it's worth thinking about depending on what type of game you're trying to playtest, because if you are, a vertical slice works very well for showing people like an hour of a linear action game and saying, right, we're going to put you on level 3 and just play level 3. Here you go. Here's what level, or like the first 25% of an action game or something like that. A linear game where you don't need to play it start to finish to get the sense of what the whole game is. But if you've got a very systems-based game that is about like, well, basically, if you played SimCity and you just got to play the game for 20 minutes, you don't really have a sense of what playing SimCity is, or like City Skylines or whatever the equivalent is. To give people a sense of that without giving them all the content, what you really need to do is allow them to play the game for 3 or 4 hours so they can actually build a city, because it's a game about building a city, and then take a bunch of the side systems out, right? And I think if you look at historically how, I don't know, Prison Architect, games like that were developed when they were in early access, they did the same thing. They sort of developed the sandbox mode first. You could just go in it. You could play, from the first early access launch of something like Prison Architect. I'm going to get it up so that we can see it on here. When something like Prison Architect was being developed and you played it in early access, it didn't have like a story or anything like that. But the version you could play allowed you to build a prison, right? And playing a game like that where it's just like 10 minutes of building a prison isn't really enough it's not enough for your players to get a sense of what the game is, and it's also not enough for you as a developer to be able to get useful feedback from, which is what you're looking for at this stage, So, yeah. Yeah, run-based games almost force you to make a whole game. Yeah, and it's like, you need to make the structure of the game means you can make a whole game quicker, and then the pool of stuff that goes into that structure is how you expand it out from there. So the game I'm working on will be like free alphas for a long time. I'm not going to be like making a paid version of that game for a very long time. And then when I've got the main skeleton of the game and, you can play it all and the story thing is in there and the upgrade thing is in there, then I'll have got it to a stage where, okay, now it's just a case of adding in more content, adding in more things for you to unlock. And once it's at that stage, then I can start to think about commercial release. But before that, it will just be public playtesting with a free version for a very long time. And what I've done is the version that I've put up on itch, which, hang on, I linked it from my Blue Sky. It's not even on. I have an Indie Game Clinic itch, but I'm not putting my personal games on there. It's just for hosting game jams. Yeah, so the version I put up on my itch is like, it's not really the start of the game, because these blue rooms are stuff you get towards the end of the game. Because the idea is you start off with like grey and green rooms that are sort of medieval themed, and then as you unlock more stuff in the game, you get this kind of cyberpunky looking stuff added to your draft pool, and you start to get these mix of genres and time periods and stuff. So again, I'm not like building the first bit of the game, because I think that's what people rush into doing. That they go like, okay, playtesters need to know how to build the game, so ergo I must build the first level of my game and it must be a tutorial. And it's like, you can end up doing that a bit prematurely and wasting loads and loads of time, when what you probably should do in certain types of games is just give people the middle of the game and then slap some tutorial stuff in the background, like put content. Like, one of the things I'm going to do this is put a lot of contextual tooltips in. So we saw that in Eko, this had very good tooltips in the UI. Like every button you can use at any given moment pretty much is kind of shown on the interface of what it is. It's hard to do that well, but if you can do that, then sometimes you just do not need to tutorialize that stuff, because there is just always a thing on the screen telling you that A does this and X does this and so on. Can there be a relic that just makes him red? Maybe. Yeah. I mean, the stuff you work on first is never going to be the strongest stuff, is it? It happens sometimes. I know there are some situations where the intro is the thing that people make as their kind of early testing ground, and they did that with Pillars of Eternity, I know, because I've just finished reading Blood, Sweat and Pixels again, and they built all of the intro for that as their sort of public demo. So there's places where it can work, but I think a lot of the time just falling into that trap of just like building a tutorial too early because you want the playtesting version of the game to explain itself. I don't know. So much of this is really contextual to the type of game you're working on, isn't it? Anyway, thank you all for joining today. Keep sending your games in. If you want your game on Indies Under the Knife, it is submitted via the form on the homepage of the YouTube channel. If you're watching from Twitch, have a YouTube channel, Indie Game Clinic, there is a form on here where you can submit games. I do at least one stream a week doing public playtesting on games submitted to this form. Don't email me to them. Don't email them to me. I don't read the emails. And I try to cover as many games as I can. In a playtest like this, I might cover 2 games if they look a bit more polished and a bit further along. Sometimes I fit 4 or 5 games into a 2 or 3 hour stream. It just really depends on the types of games we get and what stage they're at. So thank you for joining, and good luck with whatever you're working on, whether it's a game, a souffle, or your marriage. And